Vocabulary is a massive area, and I don't know how your students record their vocabulary. Mine usually have never thought about it, or they take out a little pad that they've bought in W.H. Smith, and they're just trying to, sorry, that's an English stationery shop, sorry about that. Anyway, they're writing down their new words, maybe putting the translation next to them. But there must be many more exciting ways of storing vocabulary, perhaps using technology. So here's one. This screenshot shows the Macmillan English campus again, and there you've got a chance to choose the categories of language that you want to store your vocabulary in. So typically a student might choose, for instance, grammar, vocabulary, or they might choose adverbs, adjectives, nouns, for instance. And then when you want to review, just click on a category and you can see all your nouns. But what's also interesting is that the definitions are what you've produced. So you're actually creating categories, putting sentences putting new words, into sentences. And so there you've got a very, very interesting way of storing vocabulary. Next slide. Okay, there's a lot of electronic dictionaries around, and they're a wonderful example of how enriching vocabulary learning can be. This is an example from MED2, the Macmillan English Dictionary, and if you look at the dictionary, when I did, I was shocked to see that blended learning wasn't in the dictionary. It's no problem, just go to the little icon which shows note, and then you can type in the word that you want. On that screen you can actually see my entry. I've written in the word that I want to remember. And now that this dictionary is just out, it's called MPulse, and that's also available on the web, so as a web dictionary. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Okay, we're going to have a look now at the 4 language skills, and I think it's fair to say that the explosion of audio and text material on the internet has radically changed the way that we approach the receptive skills, that's listening and reading. In other words, there's so much stuff out there that it's easier for learners to get exposure to authentic material. To a lesser extent, speaking and writing have been influenced, but they have been changed. So let's take a look at the 4 skills areas now. Next slide. So starting with listening, that's what I used to say. I used to say, as I held up my audio cassette, okay, I'm going to play the tape twice. And as you look at your class, someone is thinking, twice, only twice. I need to hear this a few more times before I can understand. And someone else is thinking, oh dear, twice. I understand the tape first time. Why do we always have to listen to it again? So you've got that problem for the classroom teacher of kind of going just above middle, this sort of, it's been called lockstep thing, where you're hooked into the class as a whole. Nowadays you could just stand up and say, okay, after the lesson you have access to all of this listening. So if you were, for instance, using a CD that's in the back of the course book, the students have got the listenings. The students may have these as MP3s. This screen grab shows the Macmillan English campus, so you can actually just say bookmark it. That's a new instruction. Go back and just store this and then listen to it in an internet cafe. Listen to it at 3 o'clock in the morning because you can't sleep. So you can go in, you can choose how many times you listen to that clip. You can choose whether you want to listen with subtitles or without subtitles. So many, many more choices. Next slide, please. Okay, in my EAP world, I often find myself doing things from programmes that are over here on the BBC, such as Dragon's Den, a very interesting business programme, or there's a business programme called Working Lunch. I find myself using these clips of video and actually saying to students at the end, okay, if you like that, you can go back, go to the web, go to the web page, and you can listen to that clip again or see it again. And I find myself much more as an enabler in terms of listening by saying there's all this stuff out there and helping students with strategies. Also, I found that people over here can watch again on iPlayer, and I met somebody in Japan who was very, very irate, saying, we can't get that over here. So that's interesting. I don't know, can you watch programs where you are again afterwards? Okay, let's move on. Okay, we're going to move on to the other receptive skill, which is reading. And one of the great things that the web has done as a delivery tool is actually push out lots and lots of current material. So in the past, it took a couple of years before, to create a course book, so sometimes the texts were out of date. Nowadays you can push out something like this e-lesson very, very quickly. So the e-lesson that's up there now is on Twitter, and I first discovered what Twitter was quite recently. And in the space of 1 week, I found out what Twitter is, how it might be used in a business English context, wrote an e-lesson that was edited and then pushed out over the internet. Just all in the space of a week, so I think that's quite remarkable. Okay, next slide. Okay, in terms of reading, it's quite interesting that campus users know, for example, that there'll be a text pushed out each week from the UK. The text will be changed to 3 different language level, so you can actually do a lot of work on prediction just from the 3 different titles, which the titles tend to get more complex, obviously, as you go up the upper level. You could deal with an average level text in class and actually say to students, okay, go home, read that again if you want to, but choose the advanced level text. And of course, when students are reading, they've also got access to an online dictionary. They can store some of the words from the text in their vocabulary storage tool. So I think what's exciting at the moment is this coming together of different technologies at the same time. Next slide. Yeah. Okay, so this screen here shows the quick view on the MED, and that's a lovely tool, and it's really changing the way that we look at sex on screen. So you can see Alex Ferguson there, and if you just move your mouse over one of the words on the web page, the definition comes up and you can listen to that on screen, which is great. Changing, if you like, some of the reading strategies that our learners have. Okay, so we've looked at the receptive skills. Excuse me. Let's move on. And we're now going to look at the productive skills. So starting with speaking. Okay, if you want to improve your speaking, I'd still say probably at the end of the day, you want to be in a class. You want to be in there with a language teacher. However, the technology's changed quite a lot the way that we give feedback. This is from my co-author, Barney Barrett. He sometimes gives feedback to his learners using his blog. Very, very different way of giving feedback. You can use hyperlinks, pictures, and audio clips, and so on. So that's quite an interesting way of giving feedback. Next slide, please. When the IWB is there in the classroom, there could be quite a lot of interesting things that you're doing that, without just perhaps offering a different stimulus. So you notice the coins on the left there, there's something called a cloning tool. You could click on a coin and you could replicate that many times. So set up a role play. Okay, I'd like to buy a whatever, and wouldn't it be nice if that was in the real world? You could just click on a euro and just have another one, another one, another one. There's a map of the world there, and I find that's a lovely way to start a lesson. In my lessons, people are from all over the world, from China, from Korea, from Europe, and often they don't catch where somebody else is from. So pull up a map of the world, give your students the e-pen, they could come out right where they're from on the map, and then print that off at the end of the lesson, so students have got a memory of where everybody's from in their class and what their names are. Next slide. So, one of the things I've noticed is just how older tools like PowerPoint, suddenly you realise, goodness me, I've got PowerPoint here. I could build a mind map using mind mapping software, or just get students to fill in a Word document during the class, and then save that to server and print it off afterwards. So really, really good ways of getting students talking. Next slide. On the subject of giving feedback, Barney works in a business English school, and what they do is to use a dictaphone just to record students' presentations, save that as an MP3 file, burn it onto a CD and say, here's your feedback, and send it to students electronically.